Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Brian's Logic, Neil, 10th Man, Arwin, Eli, Chocolate, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Welcome, one and all.
A very good morning to all.
Hello.
Nearly 2 times. I like it.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Few you got double introductions. Anyway, good to be here. How are you all doing? I've got a subject to talk about this morning. Some of you were privy to this in the pre-show. About publicity of the show. Now, I would like to say it's generally about the Flat Earth community and putting it out there, and as I found out in the pre-show, that's probably the motivation behind the person who's done what we're about to discuss. But obviously my selfish self, I'm a YouTuber, I'm looking to look out for myself and my family. Building the channel builds me a greater income and helps me live more comfortably and all those great things. So that's my selfish motivations out the way. I just don't want anybody to hold me to task for something I haven't disclaimed immediately. But yeah, it's nice to get promotion. Obviously these things are considered. That's one of the reasons I look at my stats and keep a close eye on them. But over the last few days, I had a weird gradual rise in subs and views, and the live stream got good numbers just before the weekend, and all sorts of stuff that I hadn't necessarily anticipated. And the reason, I think, is because a chap basically went and printed off 1,000 leaflets and started posting them through his local people's letterboxes. So massive thanks to that person. I'll stick a screenshot of the leaflet, this fairly humble screenshot that the guy's just done on his computer, printed it off and gone and posted it through people's doors. I'd like to know, if you're watching this live and this is the means and conduit that brought you to this show, please let me know in the comments, or if you're in the live stream chat, just, maybe say, yeah, actually, I saw this come through my door, tuned in at 2, and then now I'm here subscribed. It'd be great to know if I've only given the guy estimations on what I think might be that bulge in my subscriber uptake and live stream uptake in terms of what I think the effectiveness of this has been, along with what I think should actually realistically be the impact it has based on marketing statistics that I had from back when I was in sales. So other than giving him that information, the only other thing I can get for him, not that he's asked, in regards to effectiveness, is direct feedback. So if you are one of those people, please let us know. The other thing we discussed was the fact that there's obviously a similar sentiment going on as we're getting screenshots of people photoshopping black swans and adverts for Flat Earth 24/7 Discord and Quantum Eraser channel onto famous public places, Piccadilly Circus or whatever it is these places are, Times Square perhaps. But yeah, it's obviously of a thought process at the moment. I know we've discussed this in the pre-show, but big housekeeping perhaps today. Any more remarks to add on this, as it's something I definitely do want to discuss, and say thank you to the person who went out and did that.
Is there any other ways of medium exchange anybody else can think of to get information out that's not controlled?
I'm not really pushing at the audience to give us marketing suggestions necessarily, but fair enough. If you want to throw it out there, feel free.
I think it's a great idea, and that guy deserves a lot of credit. Well done.
Well, you spoke to his motivation in regards to it's not necessarily that he wants to help you build your channel as a YouTuber. The cause has a lot of passion attached to it. A lot of maybe humbleness, whatever that word is, if it was correct. People being duped. Humility isn't the right word. It's after the fact. So it's more like initially you're pissed off because you've been lied to. and you feel a bit embarrassed about it. But after that subsides, you kind of feel like, well, that's a bit of an outrage, you know, how dare they? And you kind of want to right a wrong that is perceived. And that's the subject. And if this particular individual thought, well, great, flat earth debate is the best conduit to get this information out in the best possible way, therefore I'll promote that particular show because my motivation is to get this information disseminated, i.e. the great big lie that is heliocentrism, if you want to consider that to be the actual ground beneath your feet. So there we go. Thank you very much to that person for doing that. Really, really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments if it's had an impact on you.
You got to think of when the subject first came to you, how you felt. You want to share that. You want people to see that we've been lied to, like you said, and that Earth is flat. The whole world is new. Hallelujah.
Well, I wanted to know how people came to that conclusion in retrospect or with hindsight without necessarily having the best of proof to back that at the time belief. So when I interviewed people, I was asking them, how did you find out the Earth is flat? So I could ascertain what it was that in their mind established it as so.
Well,
I personally thought it would be easy to tell people about this because to me it was simple as, oh, you mean the Earth is pretty much what my senses tell me it's been that my whole life? Okay. Because the only other option is the only other thing I've ever seen is in cartoons and textbooks and movies. I've never experienced any of that crap. My senses never experienced any of that crap. So to me, I thought it'd be pretty simple.
Well, you and I have a very similar attitude on this, Chocolate, which is to say that the obvious and observable nature of reality suggests that it's flat and motionless. So when someone just, Math Powerland to be more specific, said the words flat earth without them being toned with ridicule, that was a real eye-opener. Because I'm like, yeah, I've experienced the world. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'd like to think I'm fairly observant. I like to pay attention to stuff. And it didn't seem to be a sphere, and I was questioning it and putting it to the back of my mind rather than just having somebody even utter the words flat earth at that particular stage in my life when I was thinking that way. Same as you, Chocolate.
Yeah. I guess at the time I didn't realize how deep the indoctrination was. Well, I guess I did because obviously I was thinking, well, damn, I've been told this crap since I was a kid. So, shit, but for me, it was simple to kind of just be like, well, it's obviously not that. And they don't have any proof for what they're telling me it is. So, yeah, this should be pretty simple. And it turned out not to be.
Yeah, but I was the same way. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it just turned out a lot of people are just not very comfortable with just going by what their senses telling them. Except, I mean, when it comes to living every day, sure. But when it comes to what you're living on, it's like, that's a problem now. So that's just weird to me.
Yeah, but I gave all the credit to God. I figured this doesn't even make sense, but God could do anything. And I went and I even preached it. How amazing it was, this ball that we're spinning on, but yet we're standing still and we feel no movement. I used it all as I was preaching. So to come to the realization that it's not what I was taught it was, and that it actually is flat, it's an amazing thing.
Quick shout out to Goldie McKiernan, who says, here's to getting the week started off right. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Really appreciate it.
There's coming a day where there'll be thousands and thousands of people listening to your show, Nathan. We have to go through this process of fighting all the deterrents, the enemies of what we're doing, the anti-flat earthers, the lack of promotion on the media platforms that you can use or are on. But this is all building up to a varsity team that you put together. Everyone has something that they added. Everyone is being ready for the actual battle that's coming. And that's going to be thousands and thousands of people. I mean, I see the day where you'll have thousands of people in chat just waiting for you to start your pre-show. That's what's coming. Because as Chocolate said, it's intuitive, and they've dulled our senses with hogwash. Once the other stuff of the world that they're putting on us to keep us down, and this war over here or this thing over there, all that, the minute you get with people, in fact, let me give you an example. So I'm working with, I told you a while back ago that there was a guy that came to Flat Earth through the means of a friend of mine and myself. And this person has been researching and tried to fight it at first. But then after he did his research, he found out he couldn't fight it, so he joined it. Then he said, what should I do? And I said, well, do you want things forced on you, or do you want to come to the truth yourself? And he says, no, I want to come to the truth myself. I said, well, to keep researching, listen to these shows, call me if you have, questions, and whatever you do, don't throw up on everybody with this, because you're not going to like what happens. So sure enough, to that months and months and months of working with him, he's now got 8 people who initially 2 said, okay, I could go with that. 6 said no. Now they're all researching. And the first person called back and said, I can't believe what I'm finding out. Because he was challenged to do his own research. So now, because he found out it's true, because he didn't believe it when it was told to him, because he needs to find out. So this guy now has duplicated himself into 8. Now the 8 will do the same thing, and each get 8 or 5 or 3. It don't matter. There's no numbers to these things. But that's how networking is. And this thing is growing just like that. So that's why I'm certain that there'll be thousands of people waiting for you to start your show one day, Nate.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, but by the same token, that sentiment comes from a hat that I can wear occasionally, which is the Flat Earther hat. And I get it, but I don't really view it in that way in terms of growth of my channel. I just see it as, well, if you work hard, you put in the time, you improve over time with experience, and your editing gets better and sharper, and the videography gets better, and the sound gets better, you'll grow. Just put in the time, put in the effort, and you'll grow as a YouTuber. And if you focus on that primarily, you've not got any lofty expectations that suddenly in 6 months or 12 months or in 5 years or in 10 years, the whole world's going to know it's flat and we'll be a part of history as 10,000 people are waiting for me to start my life. I don't want to have any of those sort of lofty aspirations when I just consider myself a very modest, very small YouTuber just trying to scrape by. And if I keep working hard, I'll keep growing my channel at a consistent rate, which I am.
Too bad. Agreed. Too bad. The problem you have is you picked a subject title that's going to do that whether you like it or not.
Well, that's something that's great and might come to fruition. But I don't want to put that in my back pocket or take that to the bank or any of those sorts of metaphors, because I can't quantify it in the same way I can follow the statistics versus the amount of work that I do and say, no, the better I get at the discussion, the better the videos become, the content that is versus the editing, the more people watch. Right now we're at, 15 minutes into the show and there's knocking on 100 people watching again, which is fantastic. The number of live viewers are getting better, which motivates me to do better, etc., etc. But they're all YouTube hat.
Yeah,
I think...
I'm sorry, Brian, go on.
I was going to say a good way to describe the subject as use within a YouTube channel, or as the focus of a YouTube channel, is Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin. Nobody really understood it. Nobody really wanted to go near it. It started out in humble beginnings, but out of nowhere, some years ago, a couple of years back, it suddenly started growing, and has continued to grow in popularity and strength ever since. But it took a long time of it being in the doldrums before that ever happened. So I would consider this subject and this particular show as Bitcoin. It's something that people will suddenly embrace.
Great comparison.
Yeah, that's how I'd view it.
And now, funny enough, people are coming here to get Bitcoin by proving a growth. funny enough, nobody's won that yet.
Yeah, but you would think more would come, right? There's Bitcoin out there. Come on and get it. Prove your sphere. The world says we're living on a sphere.
I don't want to burst your bubble or anything, but I've heard flat earthers, in quotes, say we're on the cusp of something massive ever since I've got here. 7 years I've been hearing that. No offense.
And how much did you grow? Think
What,
of where
through-
you were when you
through-
first started.
through-
Now look.
What, through every waking moment I can spare being dedicated to this way beyond your
Good.
normie full-time hours? Well,
Do your job and stop complaining.
No, I'm just saying that I would ascribe that to my dedication to my YouTube channel as opposed to the exponential growth that I've been hearing other flat earthers talk about us being on the cusp of ever since I got here. I just saw an evergreen subject. All right, so now I appreciate the world's flat. Okay, I want to be a YouTuber. I've made videos about hi-fi. I was currently building a computer at the time. I was like, what subject do I want to cover? I want to make videos. I want to be a videographer. And now here I am with this fantastic subject dropping into my lap, flat Earth. Why is it fantastic? Well, because the Western world all thinks they're on a sphere. And as long as that's the case, as far as I'm concerned, I've got a subject matter to cover. Evergreen subject on YouTube. What's going on? Those are few and far between.
It sounds
Sorry, I
to
was
me
on
like,
mute.
Nathan, it sounds to me like the Western world figuring out it's flat would be detrimental to the success of your channel.
In a way, you're right.
No, it won't. We will become education then.
Thank
Like
you, Neil.
now. Come on.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Yes, that's correct, John. In essence, what John has just said is that were tomorrow the President and Prime Minister and world leaders around the flat plane we dwell atop to stand in front of mics and say, it's all a big lie. Turns out Earth is actually flat. Now, we don't know a great deal about it, but you're just going to have to get used to it. Well, would that immediately put an end to my channel? Well, no, not necessarily, because there's a certain historic value to the channel. But as a historic fad, I think maybe that would put a shelf life of a couple of years before it became accepted and normalised to the point where not a lot of people will be interested in that recent history. And then further to that, maybe 20 years, 30 years beyond that, the information that we've developed in terms of the debate and how it's progressed up until the point that everyone was just told that Earth is flat, that would have a value 30 years on. But it wouldn't be an evergreen subject at that point, because the entirety of the Western world suddenly doesn't believe they're on a sphere. So what's the point of debating about whether or not Earth's a sphere or flat if they know in no uncertain terms by their government and television sets and iPads that it is? What's the debate on? Yeah.
Well, rest assured, that's why I've introduced puns early on so that we have another subject to go to at that point.
A quick shout out to Shatner's Bassoon, who's joined as a member for 13 months. He says, please share the show and join as a member today. I love the fact that people will give me money and promote the fact that they've given me money to other people and encourage them to do the same. Shatner's Bassoon, you're a superstar. Thank you very much indeed.
I got some slides of Master B when you have time.
Okie dokie.
Just quickly before I go into the slides, that's why I used the example of Bitcoin. Everyone was expecting Bitcoin to take off next month. And it went on for the bones of a decade before that actually really happened. It grew, but people didn't know how far it was going to grow. Nobody who was investing in it early on expected it to become reach a point of being worth more than $60,000, which it did last year. So the thing about it is, no one's expecting that. But once it happened, then you made your profit and whatever you got whatever you got. So the show is going to be kind of like that. Once it happens, it won't be a case of they suddenly say it's flat and we'll have to look into this. It won't be like that. There'll be a lot of build up to that, and that'll be the biggest promotion for you, Nathan. But when they do come out and say it's flat, you're right. There won't be too many years after that where that subject will be. People will get to grips with the subject. Media, the mainstream media, will get to grips with the subject. You'll be very well known. So I don't think you'll be in danger of having nothing to do. But the thing about it is that it's when it happens like that, it'll be like you've just had a load of Bitcoin and it just became worth $60,000. But then the high will be you'll reach that high point, and then that'll be kind of the killer of the show, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that you won't be sought after for other reasons, because of the way you are logically consistent, and for other reasons to do with your personality and your show. So it's not that you won't have a show or you won't have work. It's be more of a case of it'll just change. Because there's no point in a debate show, as you say, about a subject that everyone agrees upon.
Right, indeed. But yeah, I mean, the debate's not even that old in real terms. You know, we're not talking about 20 or 30 year spans of stuff going on, right? Look at Simpsons for an example of that. So no, it's not like we're even close to comparing it in those terms. And in that time, my YouTube flat earthing career, I've covered interviews, tried to emulate Patricia Steer, and then moved on to debates. So it's the subject matter's evergreen. The way it's covered isn't necessarily always going to be a debate format. But currently, we're in that stage. You know, I think we're in that last of the 5 hurdles before acceptance. You know, people do regress. But ultimately speaking, you know, I think we've sort of moved past the bargaining stage, which is the debate stage. Now, that's why it's quiet, but the fact is that the show title will always remain as Flat Earth Debate, even if it becomes a chat show where we're talking amongst ourselves and literally no fundies come in. Because the Western worldview is still globe. And it's never going to change that there's going to be one random stranger every so often that comes along and goes, what are these guys talking about? And just balls to the wall come in and think that they can just humiliate us and get put in their place, keeping us on our toes, hopefully so. Because there's going to be plenty of people who are obviously still on that worldview that don't know we're in existence and stumble across us. Don't do any research when they do. Just barge their way in. Now, while that might be dribs and drabs of debate, which is the most effective way of getting the information across, none of us are bored of the subject. Me especially. I love this subject. I'm always talking about it. Daily, you know, because it's fascinating. You know, it's the biggest paradigm shift you'll ever have in your lifetime if you're currently awake and watching. You know, what else is there that's going to be a bigger paradigm shift? That hasn't just been another part of history repeating. This is not that, is it? This is something very different. So you might be able to draw comparisons with whatever's in the news at the moment and tell me how big and important it is. I'll just show you another piece of history repeating and a paradigm shift beyond anybody's wildest imagination in flat Earth versus a heliocentric worldview that has an ever-expanding infinite nothingness of vacuum for gas to disperse into, killing us all. You know, it's full of all sorts of crazy notions that you have just accepted, and those are typically difficult to relinquish. But once you appreciate what the actual knowledge of the humanity that you're living in has acquired, you'll realise the contradictions of the religious view of the current society you live in. And that's all heliocentrism is. It's just a religious view.
Well, one thing, just before Tank goes, one thing that will be talked about, or after people like accept it as flat, the subject you have then is like a witch hunt. It won't, and I don't mean initially a witch hunt for people like Brian Cox and stuff like that, because they'll have an easier time just being honest, right? When it comes to that crunch point, they'll go, well, you know, I was going with what I was taught, and this is what we thought it was, but we can be wrong about things, and they can whitewash it away, you know, up to a point. But who can't whitewash it away is people like Blue Marble Science, Fight the Flat Earth, all the, you know, whoever else, Charles Flat Earth Math, you know, MC Toon, all these people who spent years being anti-flat earthers, all these people who spent years, and all the trolls out there, all the people who spent years attacking us, those people, who especially the ones with the biggest channels, those people are going to be, there's going to be a witch hunt for them from the public.
Right, cool, because what are they effectively doing? The term you're looking for is suppressing the truth.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they'll be the ones with the biggest torches in this witch hunt.
Oh, you mean?
Oh,
yeah, of course. That's your obvious. Your psychopath's ability to immediately change sides without a care in the world for anybody he's leaving behind. Case in point, someone like Ranty Flat Earth. You know what I mean? That's just fairly typical standard behaviour of that kind of narcissist. You just don't care that you're leaving a load of people behind, whatever benefits you best. You know, so right, yeah, they'll probably be the ones to pick up the biggest torches and go to NASA's door, knocking on it, going, "How dare you lie to me?"
which is a shame. Which is really a shame, because I'd say a lot of the people that's going to be harmed by this will not deserve it.
Who's going to be harmed? Well, like who? And why would they get harmed?
Let's say
the kids who think these people are heroes for going out into a second law of thermodynamics violation.
Sean,
No.
your sympathy sickens me.
No. I'm talking about like the people that work at NASA day in and day out that design things to go into a second law thermodynamics violation that don't realize what they're doing. They're just making drawings and writing out schematics. They're going to be the ones that get blamed.
Nah. We've spent 7 years covering the fact that they're not to blame. When we get asked the question, how is it that, I don't know how many thousand people, let's say it's 10,000 people that work for NASA in one building, just to keep the numbers easy. How is it that 10,000 people wouldn't be in on the lie? Are they all going to be kept in on the lie? And then it was one of the first things Math Powerland covered, right? You've got compartmentalisation of NASA so that one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing. One person's doing one part, the other person's doing another, some person's doing the logistics of it all, and no one's seeing the end result from start to finish go into space. Once you've done it, it gets shipped off to a completely different company at a completely different location, etc., etc., etc. So they've got deniability from every single person and every single subcontractor because none of them are building something to go into space. They're building a particular component that has been designed to do a particular task, and I'm sure what they do works fantastically. So you don't need many of them. When we say who's the liars, well, the people who say that they're in a sky vacuum. The sky vacuum's not real. It's akin to them saying, yeah, we really are in Narnia now. Yeah, we've been through the wardrobe and here we are in Narnia. We're just fixing this gas lamp. That's what they're showing you on telly when they say they're in space, because they're not. They're liars. They know they're lying when they're standing in front of the blue screen or green screen or whatever it is they've got as the current technology to fake space. I don't know, deep submersion tanks, underwater, whatever it is they're doing to fake it. They know they're doing it. So I can call them liars. Because they're telling you they're in an area above your head. We call it the sky. They call it outer space. And they're not. They're in a studio. But beyond them, I can't label any of them lies. And I'm pretty sure that everybody in this community has at some stage come across that information and or disseminated it to others. Because they've been asked, why would NASA have 10,000 people lying? We go, because they're compartmentalised to the point where nobody would know.
Yeah, but that's within this community. We're talking about if it grew suddenly and people started picking up torches to burn. The psychopaths are going to start pointing fingers at everyone else but them. And the people that's going to get hurt are the people that thought they were doing a hard, honest day's work for an honest day's pay.
Well, I don't agree. And I think that as soon as they were challenged, they'd say, I didn't know, and they'd give all the reasons we've given on their behalf up until now. I think it's been softened by the community. It's hard to think of it in these terms when I describe us as being segregated into a little corner of the internet, and therefore whatever we do isn't softening up the great and washed. But then, like we started off the top of the show with that guy who's gone out and put stuff through their letterboxes, there's people with enough passion about the lie to have it disseminate slowly, even with you putting the brakes on or trying to hold back that dam that's got a big crack in it, as the case may be when we describe the heliocentric smear of bullcrap.
I have to disagree with John totally, because John, people like me and you and everyone else here will exist to point out who the real liars are, and we will not be leaving our opposition, the people, the anti-flat earthers we deal with. And I can guarantee I will not be leaving them off the hook at any point. They will be tied to a chair and interrogated.
Well, what's going to happen is immediately if it did happen tomorrow, everyone would turn to NASA and say, why are you lying? And then they're going to start pointing fingers and everyone's going to listen to them because they're the authority of the time. And I think the people that'll get hurt will be mainly innocent people. The astronauts, of course, will get it the worst, but there'll be people hurt in this that I think that don't deserve it if it happens.
Maybe. It's a possibility. Let's just put it that way. We don't know. We haven't got any crystal balls. Depends how slow the release really is, if what you say and what Tenth said is correct. You know, if it's going to be released over the stage 20 years, 50 years, even 100 years, then I don't think that's a massive concern, because you can dissolve all this stuff as needs be.
We're in charge of the release, not them.
It's like a lot of these, I think the newer generation, I don't think they pay much mind to what NASA are doing anyway. Because I had a temp start at my job the other day, and he came in with wearing a NASA sweater. Right? Now, I did my best to just kind of ignore it. I don't really know the guy or whatever. Another one of my coworkers said, they looked at the shirt, they looked at me and said, "Don't get triggered, blah, blah, blah." I was like, haha, that's funny. And the guy asked him, well, why did he say that? And he was like, well, I told him, well, I don't believe I live in a magic spinning water ball. But other than that, it's just NASA is just ridiculous. And he said, well, I don't even know what they do. What's the purpose of NASA? Now, this is the guy wearing the shirt. He's wearing the shirt. He doesn't know what NASA does. He doesn't know what their purpose is. And I just told, well, their purpose is to make sure you know that damn well you live on a spinning ball. That's what their purpose is. And he was just like, that's, yeah, crazy.
That's not to say that the people who are developing technology that is alleged to be advancing space travel, it's not to say that those technologies don't have wider reaching applications after the fact, and more often than not do. So it's hard to sort of decry the people who are advancing humanity through technology at NASA simply because one aspect of their work has been used to prop up a lie, when there's a good chance that other aspects and developments have come from whatever patents that NASA have developed through the technology of that particular individual or a group of individuals or a team of individuals, all segregated out into separate compartments, right? What they developed does actually, you see it cropping up all over the place. Oh, this was inspired by NASA technology. This uses NASA technology. You're like, well, what is it? Well, this is something you'll use in your daily life, but this aspect of it came to pass because of. And then you get a detailed explanation how somebody somewhere has developed a piece of technology that's become useful in everyday life, even though it was potentially sold to them in terms of their developmentation of it as being used to go to space. So there we go. I don't know. You could be right, John. Maybe there's a load of people that will face a load of ridicule. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's being released as softly as it is, if you are indeed correct that it is actually being released, and or if 10th's correct that we're in charge of it, and it is just down to that guy with the leaflets and the guy that clicks the share button and smashes it in wherever Facebook groups is in and says, hey, check this out. But, you know, maybe not.
I'm back.
The main people, just before 10 goes, the main people I would be unhappy with are the people who signed things at their jobs. The people, not so much the people who signed things, but the people who are making people sign things at their jobs, whether it be aerospace, military, anything, naval, anything like that. I would be unhappy with them people. That's who I would be unhappy with, because they are suppressing the truth. You know, if people have to sign stuff for the job to say, don't speak about this and that part of your job because of flat earthers or because of whatever, that I would be unhappy about. That level of secrecy, that has no military purpose. It has no aerospace purpose, something like that. It's purely down to just stopping people getting information.
Right, but how are you going to find that Dr. Evil character who's typing up that proposal and putting it out to pasture and making sure it comes to fruition in whatever means that's stopping the flat earth truth reaching the public? How are you going to find that Mr. Evil, Dr. Evil?
Well, it's not that there'll be one Dr. Evil. There'll be a panel or a group or team of people within that sector who will have decided. You know, there will have been a group of people within the US military who will have decided, or the US Navy who will have decided, you know, top brass type people who will have decided that this information can't go out to the public. And even though it has no naval or military use, as secret, let's be honest.
Well, it's really easy to tie things to military use. Information itself can be tied to military use. I think you're going to have a hard argument to win.
Especially as most of it supports us. Most of it's supporting a flat, stationary plane.
I won't, and I'll tell you why, because there's certain data I'm trying to get from aerospace and I can't get it, and it's only pitch data, very, very simplistic pitch data from commercial flights. I find it very difficult to get. So that data, I'll be asking questions about that. How come that was not available? What is so secretive about that? Because aerospace aren't military.
It's already out there.
One example.
It's already out there. We have all the NASA documents, Mark Marietta, McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed Martin. We have it all. They say all our instruments works on the flat, motionless Earth. And then we've got Andrew Thomas Young saying all his refraction studies was done on a plane. It's already out there.
Yeah, but it's not. Not what I'm looking for. It's not out there. What I'm looking for is...
I know what you're looking for, and they'll be supported by the actual contracts when someone releases the contract.
Yeah, like the stuff that's been released, not because of freedom of information requests, but just because of the lapse time, and then they just release it all. You know, if you go to Taboo Conspiracy 3 channel, he's got a video with all of these sorts of documents that we're discussing, just one after the next. Takes him about 10 minutes to get through them all. They're all saying the same thing. Earth's flat. We're not moving. That's how you got to consider it if you don't want to die.
Well, now, then you'll have to find the individual that was aware and prove that he was aware that he was making that information confidential because he didn't want the world to know that he knew.
It's not that. It's the fact that he tried to suppress something that he had no business suppressing. That's the problem. I don't care whether he knew or didn't know. The fact that he suppressed it.
But if we take, what if it wasn't him? Again, that will be, the process will be compartmentalized to the point where he won't have suppressed it. He'll have just developed the information, passed on to a superior who deems where it's worthy, where it's not worthy, and then classifies it such that the public don't get to hear about it till 50 years later, or however long. So in that instance, the person who's developed it isn't, again, it's not, that's what I meant by Dr. Evil. It's not one guy. Andrew Thomas Young hasn't drawn up that information and then decided who's going to get it or who hasn't. He's just produced the information. Then how it filters into society is dependent on who's looking for it and whether or not they've got access to it, and that's it. But who decides that isn't the person writing that document, is it?
Okay, so the presentation of the sextant coincides with all this stuff because sextant could only work on a flat plane. It can't work on off of a curved baseline. So that when you look at the NASA documents, they say, yeah, all of our stuff only works on a flat plane. When you look at Andrew Thomas Young, yeah, refraction all came from a flat plane. They're all supporting it.
Okay, I've started with your protractor.
No, not the protractor, the solar panel orientation. Go back until the first set of slides. You see solar panel orientation?
Yeah, I'm there now.
Okay. So when someone wants to get solar panels, they need to be facing south at a certain angle, catch as much of the sun as possible. And the theory goes, early morning hours, you're getting an angle of the sunlight, so it's not hitting direct on. So I have a whole day, depending what time of year it is. You might have 5, 6, 7 hours of really good sunlight. And then say it's day lasts longer, so sunrise and sunset will give you less. But in between is where you're getting the majority of your cells recharged in the solar panel. So they got this solar panel orientation and azimuth orientation. Obviously, you can see here a picture of the sun with its GP, zenith position over, a disk, a flat area. Fancy that. And then the azimuth angle from north to, starts from the north, basically, usually. And then you see at the bottom one, you could see how the sun is depicted there, solar panel orientation, zenith orientation. Now, if you go to the next slide, this looks very similar to the altitude azimuth for celestial navigation. There's the sun, there's the zenith position, measured up from the horizon, not up from a ball curve. And then the zenith angle measured from the vertical. You see a right angle there. And then you see an azimuth angle measured from the north. You could almost switch them. They're so good. They're so much alike. And what do you see there? You see an acute angle within a right angle, which is the way it works. because you need to minus it from what? What's that word, chocolate?
90.
90. Well, you got to have a 90 first to minus it from 90. So there's your right angle. Next slide, another version of it, showing the same thing. There's the sun, there's the zenith, and they even put the 90 box. So you got a 90 box from the sun, but you also have a 90 box from the vertical angle of the observer as well. So basically, you're not getting around that this is ever being done off of a curved surface. They're showing you in pictures. Next picture. In this one, they show the same thing, and you can see there's an angle. And they're not showing the zenith of the observer here, and they're not showing the zenith of the star coming straight down. They have a great circle showing that, which is a joke. Next slide. Skip this one because I put a new image of a protractor. So you'll have to go past your leaflets or what you put there. Tell me when you're on to the next one with the protractor.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the protractor, you have a baseline, you have a center, you have an inner scale and an outer scale. And what's the highest maximum altitude? 90. What's the center? That's the origin. That's the vertex. That's where the two straight lines have to meet at a common point to get an angle. Now keep this image in your mind. Next slide. Put that image onto this celestial horizon. And you could see a right angle here from the zenith coming straight down and to the celestial horizon. There's your right angle, and there's your acute angle within the right angle. They're getting it from the center because they can't achieve an angle from the surface because the surface is curved. So sextant can never work on a ball. It could work if you give it a flat plane, as you saw with the protractor previously. And here's your right angle, and there is your what? Altitude of 40 degrees above the horizon. 40 minus 90 is 50. 50 times 60 nautical miles. The co-altitude is 3,000 nautical miles from you and the star. I mean, it's right there. They can't do it off of a curved surface. They have to have a plane. And we all know what a protractor is. Next slide. This one shows on top, as they say, you have to imagine you're at the center, but they moved the center to the top and made another disk, a tangent plane. But in this case, it's a tangent disk plane, if I could say that. And they're doing the same thing. There's your right angle. There's everything that we just talked about. Easy to follow. They can't do it off of a curved surface. Sextant cannot work if the ocean is curved. Next slide. Here's an acute angle within a right angle. And this is exactly what's happening. You need that right angle. You need the 90, and then you take the altitude above the horizon, subtract from 90 times 60 nautical miles, you get your zenith distance. This is how it works. Two straight lines, a 90. No other way. Next slide. This one's fun. Now they got the celestial sphere, they got the Earth, and they've dissected the Earth to the center, as you can see, and they're showing you a right angle from the celestial equator of the Earth, matching the celestial equator of the celestial sphere. Again, can you get a 90 off of a curved surface? Impossible. So they have to go and make amends and say we're getting it from the center, but no one's at the center. Next slide. So this slide shows exactly what's happening. Here's a person, and there's the elevation angle. There's a zenith of the sun. The person also has a vertical, if it goes straight up the person. And then there's the azimuth from the north. This is how it's done. You see a ball under this? No, but this way works. Last slide. This is an interesting picture. This is an astrolabe. Still needing a plane, still needing a right angle, still needing an acute angle within a right angle. See that shaded line below? Get rid of that. Put a protractor. Protractor fits perfect on the top part. That bottom line doesn't belong. That dingleberry doesn't belong here, as John put it. It's over for the ball. A sextant is an angle measuring device, and an angle is defined as two straight lines meeting at a common point, creating a vertex.
That was excellent. Thank you, 10th. That was brilliant.
My pleasure.
So they've got to have a flat plane. And all they can do is justify how there's somehow a sphere unrelated to the actual measurements that they're going to be taking involved. And how they justify it might be to move the plane of the equatorial up to the top and call it a tangent plane, assumed to be below any point that you stand upon. In other words, if you're standing on the flat plane that you're going to be measuring, as just detailed by 10th Man, you can assume that there's a sphere dangling below that flat plane that you're about to measure and move along. You can also use a tangent by way of a geometric physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, and claim that that's your dip, actually known as height of eye correction. Meanwhile, we haven't got a geometric physical sphere edge tangent point horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. We debunked it with the Black Swan. So they're screwed in every respect to only justify how they somehow have a relation to a sphere that's redundant and not used in the measurements as part of this process. But that mild justification for the sphere that isn't used in this process, being in the diagram, has been lost. We've debunked their tangent, we've debunked their straight lines, and the process isn't being done on a sphere, can't be done on a sphere. That's the only reason they're justifying a tangent. What now? Plane. Because that's how it's actually done.
Well, can I demonstrate the simplification of that argument with Eratosthenes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you put a stick in the ground, you measure from the top of the stick to the end of the shadow, you draw a line from using that to the sun, and your baseline has to be the ground. He did it 500 miles away. So his baseline for him to acquire an angle had to be 500 miles flat. Now, there's nowhere in that where you can invoke a sphere or a tangent. There's no room for confusing dip because you're not using your eyes to measure this angle directly.
Right, there's no involvement of the horizon when you're doing it along the ground with the stick stuck into it. But in order to measure the angle, to infer that you're going to get a circumference from it, you've got to start by taking an elevation angle measurement. So all they're doing is asserting that you've got a 500-mile flat plane because you can't get an angle if it isn't. No horizon needed.
Right, and that's one of the reasons when 10th first brought it up, he would say that this is going to blow through refraction and all that. He was right, because it shows through logic the horizon is not a geometric position. It's not physical. Else you couldn't get a measurement.
But the Earth is a flat plane, and the limitation of your view can be used to establish that flat plane. But it only works if the ground is actually flat.
Right.
Epic.
But as far as trying to pry in a sphere assumption, the only thing that can do in the Eratosthenes example is invalidate the measurement.
Two images to back John up in Master B.
Exactly, John. After the fact, they can infer that they're taking their flat Earth angle measurement and bending it into a spherical surface that would invalidate the original two straight lines used to measure the angle to make the inference. So it immediately invalidates the original measurement. But the original measurement's still been taken. They can still infer whatever they like from that. But their inference doesn't make the original measurement invalid. They've taken a flat Earth angle measurement. Simple as that. It is really basic. The truth always is, isn't it? When you boil it down, when you're trying to get more concise, it's easy. On our side of the arguments get shorter and more concise as time goes by. For the globe side, they get more and more layers of complicated, convoluted nonsense added to them. Well, who do you think's on the winning side of the argument? The people who with their consistency improving, or the people with their consistency waning?
Well, that's what I said it wrong. the angle that you took required the flat plane. If the ground was curving, you would have never taken that angle, is what I meant to say.
Yeah. In other words, if you're going to infer that the ground was curving, then what are you doing using the first step as a angle measurement? You can't take that if the ground's curving.
Yes.
Don't get hung up on those details.
Well, I will get hung up on it, Chocolate, on account of the fact that John's pointing out that this description that many of us faced as soon as we arrived in this arena. Well, why? Well, because it's a weak-ass part of their argument that proves the flat Earth in the first step. So I'm definitely going to get hung up on it.
Well,
the anti-flat earthers don't want you to. As a matter of fact, they don't want to even talk about the surface. Why do you think that is?
Black market angle measurements are available, anti-flat earthers, just under the counter.
Well, another thing people run into when they first get here is the false dichotomy setup of where you're constantly trying to get your opponent to choose a flat plane model to defend. And like the whole time, they've been using the equatorial plane, flat Earth model of the celestial sphere to argue against models created from that.
It's nuts, isn't it? I've got a moon. Is this you, Brian? I did watch your video, by the way. It was Sleeping Warrior that covered it. And before you go, I will just preface your presentation by saying this. You noted that I can't remember if it was something like the horizon prior to the Black Swan argument getting a high degree of ridicule. It wasn't that, but it was something similar recently. You said that before really realising how strong the argument was, it came under heavy criticism from our opponents, presumably to stem the flow of the argument or knock your confidence or whatever. But the same applied to this. So Anthony Riley, back in 2017, postulated that we should have an eclipse. And where is it? And he got laughed at, ridiculed, told how stupid he was. But he just put out a challenge. He's like, okay, show me the new moon then. Anyway, feel free to continue, Brian. Explain, because I haven't prefaced what you're actually going to say yet. So if you can give us a summary and then go into it, that'd be great.
Yeah, the best way to do it is I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it rather than give too much explanation. I'm working the new moon part. That's part 2. This is part 1. We'll get to the new moon in a moment. So everyone agrees that here is the moon. Would anyone disagree with that?
Anyone disagree with what? What's the question?
That what we're looking at here on the screen is the moon.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yes, I can confirm.
Okay. Now, I have the video I took this from. I zoomed into the moon. I think I even zoomed further than this, or closer than this, I should say. So this is definitely the moon. Now, I'm going to show something here, right? Now, one moment now. I'm just going to get just color. Okay. So I'm just going to move this over slightly to the right.
Hang on. Is this a picture of a Mentos mint?
Well, this is the thing, right? This here, right? This here is what? Is this the moon?
It doesn't look like the last image, let's put it that way.
Okay, let's just say we change around some of the exposure, brighten it up, right? Bring it down, right? So you should be able to see some undulations or something, right? Like, there you go. We should be able to detail something. There should be something come out. Something should show up. You would expect, that we would see something, some undulations. I bring it back. This one, bring it up. I'm just messing around. I'm not going to detail. But there you go. Now, we should see something, because we're seeing more of these kind of ripple areas, or this kind of, it's like
I don't think what you're saying is clear. Let me just clear up what Brian's saying. Brian showed a picture of the moon with, let's just call them heliocentric scars and craters in a physical rock flying through the sky in a heliocentric orbit. He's shown that moon. We've all agreed that's their heliocentric moon rock with scars and craters and such. Then he's put this image up and gone, where are all the rocks and scars and craters and physical marks that we could identify the moon with in this image, and then he suggested the contrast, just so we're all clear what's happening. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, okay, no hassles, Nathan. So I'm just going to reset this, just showing where when I mess around with the levels, it brings out all these parts here, but there's a load of area in here that it doesn't bring out. Now, I did do another image over the week or Friday that brought out what appears to be patches, but none of it matches the moon. It doesn't match what the moon, doesn't match any of the creators or anything else. It appears to be patches, but that could be purely down to the filtering, right? Or it's just down to different markings on this actual object. Because what this object is, I'm just going to show everyone now, right? What this object is this, right? This is where that object comes from. This here is from, and it basically looks the same from every solar eclipse video. This is what you get. So I took this image, which is from a solar eclipse video. I won't go into the background of it. There was a lot of globe deception went on over the weekend, or has been going on for several years to do with this particular, where this image came from. But this image here, I took from a video of a solar eclipse. And I looked at other videos and it's the exact same image. It always looks exactly the same. There's some red light sticks out the side of it here, and I don't know what they're all about, but it's exactly the same. But when I filtered it, this is what I got, right? This is not the moon, but this is what covers the sun during a solar eclipse. This is what covers the sun during a solar eclipse. There is no evidence whatsoever that what covers the sun is the moon. There is evidence, though, that this covers it because this comes from that image. And you can mess around with it as much as you want, and you will never get the moon out of this. The image, the place I got this image from, right? I made a video, a challenge, just give some background. I gave it a challenge there recently for the new moon to be basically prove the new moon exists, basically. And I got no commerce. Right, I got a bit of backlash, but no commerce. And people trying to talk about solar eclipses, this, that, and everything. And this one guy called Harry Callahan, who was a troll, he on our opposing side, he sent me this video that he claimed a guy on their side had videoed the solar eclipse and then changed it around what he would see, changed around this image in Photoshop and brought out levels and showed the moon, right? But he didn't. What he did is he overlaid a thing from Stellarium, right, and tried to con everyone. And him and this guy, Harry Callahan, and this guy who made the video originally made it 5 years ago in 2017. So he spent 5 years trying to tell everyone, trying to con people and argue with people, because I have the screenshots in his comments to state that when he brought out what he showed to be the moon, that he brought it out from this. But what he wasn't doing was keeping it quiet that he actually used Stellarium. Right, an overlay from Stellarium. So the reason I'm saying all that, I don't care about that side of it. Just I have to give that little preface, right? The point I'm making is none of our opposition can prove that this is the moon, but I can show that it's not the moon, right? I can show that it's this and not the moon. So if that's not the moon and that's going in front of the sun during solar eclipse, that's major problems for heliocentrism, because this has to be the moon in their model. This has to be the moon. Now, I brought out another video last night called it was what was it? New moon shadow, right? And I asked, where's the shadow of the new moon? Right, I'm just going to show this here. Right, this is from a video about lunar nodes. Right, so where's the shadow of the new moon? Right. Because there should be a shadow. If we, like, going off of their claims that we can't see it because it's daytime, and there's several reasons why we should be able to see it based on their lunar eclipse, right, and other things, but that doesn't matter right now. What all I'm talking about right now is the shadow, right? If this face of the moon that we always see is there, but we can't see it due to it being daytime, and there's the light from the sun in their heliocentric claim is only behind it, then where is the shadow that should turn up? Do we have 13 moons a month? That's 13 new moons a month. Or sorry, a year. 13 new moons a year, right? And all they can do is go, oh, solar eclipse, right? But I just showed that it's not the moon that's going in front of the sun in solar eclipse. That's not the moon. Nobody can show it to be the moon. I can show that it's not, right? Now, look at this diagram, right? This is the claims from their side that we don't see a shadow, right? Because the moon is either too high in the sky, so the shadow goes over the top of their globe, or too low, and the shadow goes underneath the globe, right? This is what they're trying to say. Look at what their shadows are. They get smaller, right? Back to the small shadows.
Yeah, that checks out.
That's not how a shadow works. These red lines is how a shadow works. Especially if the object is further away, the shadow is bigger.
So
you will have a huge shadow.
So parallel light, just forgotten about suddenly for these examples.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is what they have, right? Try to claim that shadows get smaller. Like, I mean, if you stand next to a wall with a light shining on you in the nighttime, you'll have a shadow about the same size as you. When you walk away from that wall 10 feet, that shadow will grow to about 15 foot. And the further you walk away, the bigger the shadow gets. This is how shadows work. And this is what they're trying to show as shadows, right? And they're trying to claim that every time there's a new moon, right, it's either too high or too low, and the shadow just misses us. It's a complete load of rubbish. They can't back up. They have nothing for it. But all they can do, this is the trick. They send people to a solar eclipse, which is begging the question, right? Because I've just shown here that the solar eclipse is blocked by this, and not the new moon. Whatever they claim, the thing they claim is the new moon, that they claim is there, that there is no evidence for. This is what it's. I'm just going to show you one more time, right? Just change around a few levels, just to show, right? I can change around the levels. I can mess around with it. I can do anything I want with it. You can bring it into any software anywhere. You will not find anything other than this. This is what you find. This is not the moon. This is not the moon, right? That we see here. This is what covers the sun during solar eclipse. This is a fact. There is no proof that it's the moon. And that's the end of that.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
And nobody, no matter what software you use, no matter what filtering you use, I can video, no matter what you do, right, you will not show that up to be the moon. That will always show up to not be the moon. So that means it's not the new moon going in front of the sun, which means that their claim of the new moon, right, is faulty for a start. So, but see, the thing about it is that the fact that that's not the moon going in front of the sun debunks heliocentrism.
Nah, it means you've got means you've got to tell me what it is. So what is it then, Brian? You've now got to tell me what it is.
I stated I don't know. I don't know what it is.
No, it's not good enough.
Rahu.
No, me claiming it
it's
is
Rahu.
moon.
It has a name.
Yeah, don't give me the Rahu and K2. My point is that this will result in the burden being flipped. It's a bit like proving that you can't have gas pressure without a container. Well, what's the dome? Well, this isn't the moon. Well, what is it then? I don't know. But you're claiming it's the moon. Yeah, let's not worry about my positive claim that failed. This is now your claim. What is it? You've got to tell me. Let's not focus on the fact that it isn't the moon, and you can prove that it's not the moon.
Whoa.
Well, I already...
It's the dome.
The dome?
Yeah.
The dome is eclipsing the sun.
But no, I've already encountered that, and I just say, I don't know.
Well, like I said,
it's not the moon. That's all that matters.
For me, the stronger argument is that doesn't cast a shadow. And once it passes, and since studying celestial navigation, they know where everything is every hour, minute, second of the day. At nighttime, when we can't see it, it should be blocking the constellations that's in front of the viewer. But it's not.
Not even at nighttime. Where is it before and after it obscures the sun?
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm being very careful in the words I'm using. I'm even giving them the daylight, for whatever reason. But when it comes nighttime, it's got to block the stars behind it, and it doesn't. So it doesn't matter where they go. I'm just making the stronger argument. No shadow, and it doesn't block constellations.
Well, their claim is that it's only out in the daytime. This is where their claim comes from, because it's not there in the sky.
Oh.
Their claim is it's only viewable in the daytime, but we can't see it due to XYZ excuses.
Well,
right?
you mean the moon doesn't like nighttime?
Well, the new moon specifically is claimed to be only out in the daytime, and they need it to only be out in the day.
Well,
it suits them to make that claim suits them.
Hang on. If it's a physical object, how could it be only out in the daytime?
Because of what the heliocentric route that they claim that it's taking, right?
What's that? A spice for cooking? Heliocentric route?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me explain it. Right? They try and claim, right, that their globe can cover the sun, right, the sun's light, and that causes a lunar eclipse, right? Yet you can see the moon when there's no sunlight on it whatsoever. You can see the moon because of what they call really scattering and earthshine, right? But at new moon, they say we can't see the face of the new moon because the sunlight is all behind it. There's no light on the front of it, and it's daytime. But there should be what they claim as a lunar eclipse, really scattering and outshine on the moon. We should be able to see it. And this is what I've said time after time. We should be able to see it early in the morning and later on in the evening. We should be able to see it when the conditions get a little bit when it's a little less bright, when there's little less sun. There should be evidence there for it somewhere. The only evidence they have, just let me finish what I'm saying. The only claim they have, right, actual claim that they have that they can point at someone and say there is the new moon, is a solar eclipse. But I've just shown there is no moon in front of the sun during a solar eclipse. There is something else, but it's not the moon.
All right. So if I take a solid object, put it in front of something in the daytime, I see the solid object and the thing that it's in front of. Now it's nighttime. It's so dark I can't see the solid object I put in front of what's behind it. But fortunately for me, there's a light that comes on the of the object behind it. And since the solid object that I put in front of that, is blocking that light, that means it's a solid object blocking the light. So what I'm saying is if the moon, and we know where it is according to celestial navigation all the time, it should be blocking stars and constellations when we can't see it with our eyesight. For whatever reason they want to give, it's still a solid object in their model. It's got a block, and it doesn't.
Well, that's my point, you see. Like, they their claim is that the new moon is only out. The new moon is only in the sky while the sun is also there. This is how it works this is how they work it, right? And that's why they revert back to the solar eclipse and claim it's the moon going in front of the sun. And if you say, someone said that's not the moon, they go, well, what is it then? Well, I'm showing that I don't know what it is, but I'm showing it's not the moon. The thing about it is with their claims is that all they've got is this solar eclipse claim, right? And they cannot prove that it's the moon going in front, or show that it's the moon going in front of the sun. They can only claim it, but I can show that it's not the moon, that it's something else altogether. And that is, I don't know if people realize just how massive that is, as in how devastating that is to heliocentrism, and of course the shadow claim they have where the shadows get smaller. That doesn't happen. Shadows get bigger. We should see a shadow somewhere along the way of a new moon. If there's a physical object in the sky, then there should be a shadow cast onto the earth, surface of the earth, whether it be globe or flat. Doesn't matter. There should be a shadow cast upon the earth. if it's a physical object with light behind it, at some point within the 13 moon months of the year, there should be a shadow cast upon the earth. There should be planes flying through the shadow. There should be something. There should be something, but they have to make their shadows get smaller. Why do they have to do that? Because there is no shadow. Because there is nothing to create the shadow that I can find evidence for. I can't find any evidence that the new moon is in the sky and exists. Right? But I can show that it's not the moon crossing in front of the sun during solar eclipse.
I've always bugged out as like with the new moon, like how is it that even with infrared you can't pick this thing up? Like this thing is supposed to be lit by the sun beaming on it, but even with infrared we can't pick it up at all.
Yeah,
for 2.5, 3 days, nothing. But it just happens to be what blocks the sun.
You can predict the lunar and solar eclipses. If you look at an astrological chart, if you look at the north node and the south node, whenever they're 15 degrees within the sun or the moon, that's when either a lunar or solar eclipse take place. The north node or south node. I think they used to call that, was it Rahu and Ketu? But that's always within 15 degrees when there's an eclipse. So you can look at a chart, you can skip forward a date. When they're within 15 degrees, that's when an eclipse is going to take place, solar or lunar.
Yeah, but they have a claim that the moon is going in front of the sun during a solar eclipse, whereas I'm showing it's not. And that's the problem. So their prediction, whatever globe predictions there is, whatever they stated in the sky, has to be wrong, because I'm showing that it's not what they're stating. And they can't show any different, and that's the point. NASA, nobody can show the moon in front of the sun during a solar eclipse. They can only show a black disk. And when you flip the contrast and all that on that black disk and invert the contrast, make all the background dark and bring out turn the dark disk bright, it's not the moon. It's not the moon. So if it's not the moon in front of the sun during the solar eclipse, I don't know what it is, but it means it's not the moon, which means the heliocentrism is wrong.
Unless it's not anything, and it's just the sun doing that itself. Who the hell knows?
Well, there is another weird thing. Sorry, John.
I was going to make a joke. I wasn't going for anything serious.
Well, I would just like people to do their best. I can only show that what I'm showing is not the moon. I would like people out there to do their best to prove that it is the moon going in front of the sun during solar eclipse. And there's no point in telling me about predictions and all this. I don't want to know. I don't care. I want the proof that it is the moon going in front of the sun, because nobody has been able to prove that. NASA, nobody. The only video that I got sent to me that was supposed to be proof turned out to be an absolute fraud. Right, a guy was using an overlaid image from Stellarium, and he did a little edit trick, and most people wouldn't have spotted it. And I didn't spot it. I just spotted that it was a fraud. I didn't spot that it was from Stellarium because I don't use Stellarium, but I knew it was a fraud. I knew he'd overlaid, and then it was admitted that he had overlaid it and that it was from Stellarium, and it was very obviously from Stellarium. It's what people like Ruhif were telling me, and that I shouldn't be calling people liars when the guy. I have screenshots from the guy claiming, arguing with flat earthers in his comments, claiming that what he's showing is correct. And the guy that sent me the video was claiming, I have screenshots of his comments to me, claiming that this is correct. Yet, that's all they had was a fraud, a 5-year fraud. That's all they had. So
Yeah.
NASA...
You would think...
I've seen that.
You would
Remember
think it
with
would
the
just
eclipses?
be...
Was it 2016, 17? And then so popular, everybody was trying to show their footage of the eclipse, and all these ridiculous photographs went around, specifically photographs where they show what they did, like Photoshop in the moon in front of the sun, like that. It was so blatantly ridiculous, but it was happening all over the place.
Well, there's a YouTube...
my biggest problem with this is if that's supposed to be a physical object that's covering that light, then where is the physical object before and after it covers this light? Where the hell is it? Why is it not being able to be detected at all? No type of camera, no type of nothing. Where the hell is
Maybe
it?
because it's behind the sky. It's actually the whole cover through which the light of the sun comes.
That's what it looks
Well,
like. I have to say.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's either a physical object that's doing it, or whether it's the sun doing it itself. I don't know.
There's a YouTube channel called Teeth of the Lamb, and he does some good videos on this subject exactly. So, they supposedly in the almanac, ephemeris, we know where all the stars, the main stars are for navigation all the time, except we lose the moon 2.5, 3 days a month, Chocolate. We don't know what's going on.
Oh shit! I just misplaced my moon. Damn it. Hey, everybody seen a big giant dust ball? Everybody misplaced one?
The only other video I saw that was claimed to show the new moon, it wasn't a solar eclipse, but this was claimed to be a fella astronomer guy. He used a camera and a telescope and that, and he had this big piece of cardboard taped to, like a ladder, like a painter's ladder, one that you can stand on its own, like it has like in a V shape or an A shape. He had one of those, and he had a piece of cardboard on taped to one side of it and a hole cut out, and he had his camera and whatever pointed towards this hole, and it was daytime, and he was claiming to photograph the new moon. Right now, this is in 2018. Now, telescope and camera technology has not moved ahead in rapid amounts since 2018. Right, and the best this guy could come up with, it was absolutely pathetic, was this little computer-generated JPEG, and I mean it was tiny, because when you try to expand it, it gets all pixelated immediately, and it even looks pixelated as it is. A little purple and white computer-generated JPEG that shows an arc shape on it, right? And no matter what you do, it won't show anything more than the arc. So if he was photographing the new moon, that we can't see any part of supposedly, right? And he could show an arc, how come he couldn't show the rest of it? It's not an arc. He's supposed to be showing the new moon, which is a whole circle, right? Number one. Number two, he wouldn't be able to prove that it wasn't just the arc of the cardboard he was looking out through, right? And number three is that he labelled it the young moon when he did it on the day of the new moon, whereas the young moon is pre or post the day of the new moon. So young moon is pre-new moon and post-new moon. It's not new moon. So that is the best they could come out with. Absolute frauds. Total frauds.
The only thing that coincides with this was when I was younger, I had a dog that disappeared for 2.5 to 3 days. And a few months later, she was pregnant.
So the dog was there, you just didn't see it. Because that checks out.
You wouldn't expect not to see the dog.
Yeah, it was refraction.
Is that a dog in front of your hand? Is that a dog in front of your hand?
He was beyond the resolution limit, guys.
It's within 5%.
I'm working in a mansion.
Well, it's interesting to think about.
Go on, John.
I was just going to say it's interesting to think about what the sky is, but it's one of those things that if you make a positive claim about it, you're putting yourself in a situation, like the ballers find themselves in. It's almost impossible to defend.
Just like a physical object just disappearing for 3 days at a time is impossible to defend.
On a regular basis, Sean.
Yeah, well, I don't have to make a claim and then try and back it up. I can show what it is. I can show that it's not the moon. They have to prove that it is the moon. I'm showing that it's not the moon. So,
well, if they can't find it,
make that claim.
If they can't find it for 2.5, 3 days, how are they going to show it?
Well, there's no way to show what. See, this is the thing about. This is how they work it. excuse me, there was no way to show the new moon. No way. There was no way. If it could be shown, right? If it was there and could be shown, it would have been shown by NASA or someone already. Someone would have shown it. There would be a process to go through to video it or whatever. There would be a particular lens you use or whatever. These things would exist. This would happen. There would be tutorial videos on it. It doesn't exist. So the only claim they have is that the new moon is there, and the proof it is there is that it covers the sun during solar eclipse. But I'm showing that it doesn't. There is no moon covering the sun during solar eclipse. There is something else covering it, but it's not the moon.
If the heliocentrists would really want to prove that it is the moon in front of it, then why don't they put a big spotlight on the moon, right as it is a new moon, and just like make it shine so that you see, oh look, there's a light coming from there. It must be the moon, right?
My son will say, unless you
They
can
could even
tell
do
me
it
what
during an
is.
eclipse. They could technically do it during the eclipse, right? Because they did go to the moon, right?
Well, Chocolate's point is that afterwards, as it moves away in their model, it becomes dark a few hours later. You know how to track it. You have it in the almanac all the time where it's supposed to be. Why can't you show it blocking the constellations behind it?
But see, this thing about it, it doesn't work like that.
Well, if it's solid, it has to work that way.
Yeah, but no, their claim is that the new moon, not pre or post new moon, which are young moons. Their claim is that new moon is only out in the daytime. So when it becomes nighttime for you or me, that new moon has moved and it's not there. This is what their claim is.
Well, really? Okay, so the new moon takes on different physical characteristics, supposedly to them. But I thought they had something called the ISS. And if they have something called the ISS, it's going orbit, whatever that is, 90 minutes, right? Am I right? 90 minutes for a full orbit in the ISS? How come they can't show it from there?
Well, see, they can show some GGI or something.
Oh, CGI. I could show CGI.
Yeah, but the point is, it has to be. The point is, they claim all this stuff is all based around their big heliocentric claim. But their heliocentric claim falls apart if it's not the moon going in front of the sun during solar eclipse, and it's not, as I'm showing. It's
also,
not the moon.
as a statement, it makes no sense because you're saying, according to the heliocentric claim, the new moon only occurs during the daytime. What is the new moon? Something that you can't see. So you can only not see it during the daytime? Is that what their model suggests? That we can only not see the new moon during the day?
Yeah, you can only infer it.
You can only infer that the invisible moon you're not seeing is there during the day. So just so we're all clear, the model says it's there when you can't see it, but only in the day. Okay, we're all clear.
Right.
You'll find out
it has to be there for logical consistency, even though there's no proof of it.
You'll find out that this kind of lunacy will not faze them.
A double one, huh?
Well, I'd have three.
Wow.
I'd have three, Chocolate, but I feel ill, so I'm kind of waning right now.
Oh.
Look, they have a claim, a heliocentric claim about this new moon that's a physical object, because in their vernacular, it's a solid rock in a sky vacuum. So it's a solid rock in our sky, right? And yet they claim at new moon, which is 13 times a year, it can't be seen, it can't be detected, you can't do anything, right? With it. You can't prove that it's there at all, can't video, can't photograph it, can't do anything. The only time that they say that we actually see it is every 18 years during a solar eclipse. That's 13 a year. For 18 years, nothing. Then suddenly we get one. And now I'm showing that that is not the moon. So now where did they go? I don't think, not saying it to you personally, but I don't think people realise just how massive this is. You won't need much other than this to show the public that what they're being told is a load of rubbish. If the moon is not passing in front of the sun during solar eclipse, and it's not, then where did they go?
But see, that's the moon, and fine, but I could show water doesn't curve, and people still believe it curves.
Yeah, but this is
Because
more
of water
massive,
droplets, right? Scale issues.
No, we're
A
not
lot of
talking
humans
about
have
Just at
sizing
rest.
But
At
this is
rest.
more massive.
Let's not do that, Arwin. You just didn't say at rest. Water finds and maintains its level. Ergo, water at rest proves Earth's flat. Yes, you can have water droplets. Yes, there's waves.
Yeah, but a water droplet can be at rest, laying on a piece of rock somewhere that doesn't absorb it, and it
That's
will still
tension.
be curved because of the nature of water at the small scale. And that's
Well,
what people
we're
in
talking
their
about
minds.
an ocean. Is that small scale? The ocean at rest? Is that small scale?
No, but in people's
Yeah, but
minds,
you're
they
going
have
off track,
scaling issues, and so they can be made to think, "Oh, water droplet, it stays like that, so that means water can curve."
I have never,
I'm sorry. The water droplets are due to.
Hang on, Brian. I have never had anyone pull water droplets when I say ocean.
I have. Yeah. Water droplets.
I have too. I have too. That's why.
heard it.
That's why I jumped over Arwin, because I knew exactly where he was going as Baldwin immediately. So I've definitely had that, as has Chocolate, as has... Who was the other person that confirmed they've had that?
That is me.
Yeah,
Brian.
there you go.
Well, then you're dealing with lunacy. We're back to
No shit.
Yeah. And...
No shit, Dev.
Yeah, but let's just give me a second before we go off topic, right? Onto water droplets, things that don't matter, Arwen, right?
Yeah, Arwin, they don't even matter, Arwin. Yeah, way to put him down with his perfectly valid point, which is perfectly legit and argued by the other side, Brian. It's not even relevant, Arwin. Carry on, Brian.
Yeah, well, my point is that why do we have to go on to water droplets? Kids are being taught in school now that the moon is going in front of the sun during solar eclipse. That's what they're being teaching children. It's not the moon. Everyone was taught that in school. It's not the moon. Everyone is showing it in diagrams and CGI on TV and other places on the internet and films. It's not the moon. It's not the moon. Now what did they do? It's not the moon.
Right.
Now they put water in the bucket.
If I may, there's another logical consistency element to what really makes it not the moon, right? Because why would the new moon disappear for 3 days entirely when even in like any kind of simulation, if we have an object, a ball with the sun as a big spotlight behind it, in those 3 days, it still keeps moving, right? So there would be an alteration during the movement as it's moving from that perfect invisibility because of the contrast or whatever to, oh, wait, a slither. And then it goes away again, and then the next day, and then you'd have the same effect. But there's none. There's no trace of it. Like there's not even a slight shine on the side at any point during those 3 days. And that's the real mind blower to me.
Yeah,
Well, the moon
it just goes from nothing to something.
The moon's very, can be very inconspicuous. It's got a lot of stuff on its plate. Goes out, it's got debts to pay, maybe a bit of bingo. It's got stuff to do, man. What's your problem?
Right, so he's secretly leaving his post for 3 days to do things in the back.
Yeah, people see the moon
there.
in Vegas at the slot machines. They see it all the time. They're just used to it.
Moon's like my dog.
That brings us back to the shadow. There should be a shadow cast in some way over the course of a year if we have a physical new moon in the sky. If we can't see the face of it and all the sunlight is on the back of it, on the backside of it, as heliocentrism claim, then there should be at one time, at least one time within a 12-month period, 13-month, moon-month period, we should see a shadow. There should be a shadow. There is nothing.
Brian, isn't in their model the moon is orbiting the Earth?
Yes.
So the shadow, if it's orbiting the Earth, except for 2.5, 3 days, what does it do? It should be seeing a shadow.
Well, no, because they should be seeing the shadow if the light is mostly behind it, and not just at new moon. At other times as well, close to new moon, maybe we should be seeing a shadow. But at new moon, there should be a shadow cast at some point during the year. There should be a shadow cast upon.
Well, that's
the
what
Earth.
I'm saying. It's orbiting the Earth in something that they've got down in numbers and math, and they know exactly where it is all the time. And if it's gone, then it stopped its orbit and went on a hiatus for 2.5 days and decided to come back.
Well, if it's not like in my video that I put out last night, I put a modus tollens in, is that if the moon is a solid object that's being lit by the sun, then during new moon there should be a shadow cast upon the surface of Earth. There isn't a new moon. There isn't a shadow cast upon the surface of Earth during new moon. So the moon is not a solid object that is being lit by the sun. It's like if it's a solid object, then it has to, under those conditions, there has to be a shadow. And the only way they have out of it is to make shadows get smaller.
Unless they're saying that the moon is not being touched by the sunlight for those 3 days altogether.
Right.
No, sunlight's
They
coming
say,
out
the
parallel.
eccentrics say that the light of the moon is drowned out, like you don't see the shadow because of the blue. But can we actually demonstrate that effect to actually happen with the simulation and balls and lights? No. Nobody's ever physically demonstrated that effect to be a real thing. It's just a bunch of blabbering.
Sunlight in the heliocentric model is so far away that light is coming in parallel. So that excuse chocolate doesn't hold water. We're back to water, sorry.
Oh,
yeah, I know. Trust me, I know that, but they don't, apparently.
I'm kind of surprised that Baldwin didn't take this chance to say, okay, you found a discrepancy in the model. This is a new phenomenon. We need the science.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't need to announce that. I've been onto that for like 6 years. Let's just say I haven't really.
Because being a true baller, you'll never be able to say, "Oh, we found a problem in our model. Just get a new model."
Exactly, because I haven't found a proper solution yet, so I just don't talk about it.
Unless, of course, you happen to be an exoplanet astrophysicist who happens to think they're talking to another glober, then it's okay to say, "Oh, we might need a new model. That doesn't work on the model. Let's throw that out." Until you find out that person's a flat earther, then it's a problem.
Yes,
Nathan, I put 6 pictures of sticks and shadows to support John's Eratosthenes.
Okay.
I don't know if you
I've got it. I'm on your first one.
So let John take over on this because obviously it's his argument.
He can't see what I'm presenting. How does he know the order?
In that case, I'll take over.
Yeah, you do it.
All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, as you can see. Mark first position of shadow tip, then wait 15 minutes. Mark second position of shadow tip. Draw a line connecting positions 1 and 2. This is your east-west line. And so there's your sticks and shadows. Go to the next slide. Can you see the right angle there, by the way? Here's a guy demonstrating survival techniques using sticks and shadows and trying to figure out when high noon is. Obviously, it's not high noon here because the shadow is being cast out. All right, next slide. Here's the sticks and shadows using a right angle triangle. Next slide. You can take a protractor, figure out the angle from the sticks and shadows. Next slide is Eratosthenes slide. Sunlight supposedly comes in parallel in the heliocentric model, and yet the angle can't be measured from the surface, has to go to the center again, where you can have that right angle and then an acute angle within the right angle. So there they go again, lying to us about sunlight coming in parallel, as well as where the actual angle measurement's being taken up, because that arc on that curved ball, you can't get an angle. Next slide, and we'll end with this. That doesn't look like 500 miles. I'm done.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, dropping leaflets in your local neighbourhood and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
day!